1 people.
There could be. I mean, there's solid.
What are we talking about?
How many people there are?
Cool.
No, we're talking about the news.
Oh.
Not philosophy based around
know how
consciousness.
many people are out there.
Well, how many people could be the news?
Right. How many people does it take to be the news?
Okay, so let's do the math here. If there's, 8 billion people divided by 15 minutes of fame each.
If there are no people, did the news actually happen?
Right.
If the crypto line falls in the woods.
If no one gets radicalized, did the news be reported? What happened to Wade? Wasn't Wade here? Did he?
He said he had a meeting.
Yeah, but the meeting
which apparently wasn't this one.
He's still secretly here.
No, he's not secretly here.
No,
so
he just
sad.
doesn't know.
He's watching on YouTube.
Wait,
whoever's on a meeting with Wade, he is watching the news, not on the meeting.
Oh no.
Wade's attention might be split, y'all.
Wow, that's impressive. He can multitask. That's why he's a real winner.
That makes sense.
So it's July 25th, 2022, and we're talking about the news.
I guess we got to roll the video then.
Roll the tape with the broken finger.
Roll the finger. Not that finger.
Don't give Welcome to Black Hills Information Security, talking about the news. It is July 25th, 2022. I'm your host, Sad Boy. No, wait, that's not my name. Sorry. Corey is my name. And we have an illustrious cast here of Ryan, the shootist, at RGP Photo G. He just needed that extra consonant.
It's a word, photog.
No, it's Photo G, like you're the OG of photo.
It's photog.
It's photog? What is photog? Is that German for photography?
How do you
It's
do your
short.
name?
It's because photography is too long, so I shortened it.
Okay, photog. We also got
There we
Noah,
go.
You
who's
shouldn't
still
have to
just one
explain your
pixel.
own username to you.
You should upgrade to more than you should upgrade to a bigger screen, Noah, so you're not just one pixel.
He is a square though, so I made sure it was a square.
Everyone's a square. We have Ian with an exclamation point. Specifically how he wanted it pronounced. Ian.
That's right. You just yell it.
You have to yell it. That's the problem with one syllable names. One syllable names are dangerous like that. That's why if your name's like Frankenfluffer or something, no one can yell at you angrily.
For a lot of reasons, but syllables aren't the only reason.
Okay, maybe so maybe that's a cat name. I'm not gonna lie. I may foster cats, so all the names that go through my head are just cat names.
I gotcha.
Frankenfluffer's on there.
That sounded very much like Johnny Cash, a boy named Sue. It's like, why'd you give me this name? I called you Frankenfluffer because I knew I wouldn't be around to make you tough.
I don't know what a cat named Frankenfluffer looks like, but if anyone finds it, let me know. Actually, I do, and I will post the picture in Discord later.
Okay.
And then lastly, we have Mike Silicon Shecky. He's made out of silicon carbide. He's the hardest something. I don't know. He wins the award for most cluttered office, narrowly edging out Ian.
I guess I got to put more clutter in then.
Yeah, you need to take the win. Also, I'm sure Ian's is actually blue screen or green screen. So
no green screen today.
Sure.
No, it's really that messy.
Sure. He's improved his. Whoa. I don't know how he's doing that.
Deep fakes. Lots of deep fakes.
No, the green screen was still behind him. He's just got it pushed further back.
It's a psych wall.
I'm assuming he's evolving.
Yeah, I got rid of my daughter's bedroom directly behind this wall. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's for a gag. You have to move out.
It's gonna be fantastic. I'll build you a new wall later.
It's fine.
Yeah, you're like, why did I knock down the wall? Well, there's this thing called talking about the news, and it's kind of like a thing. And I'm sorry, but your bedroom no longer exists.
And we have dozens of people watching, so we got to do this gag.
Oh yeah, dozens.
And she is one of them, angrily commenting, "You guys suck. I wish I could give me my bedroom back."
Y'all aren't my real dad. I am actually your real dad, but the rest of you aren't.
For the record, we were not involved in any wall smashing.
No.
Well, you weren't anyhow.
So are we gonna
So
talk
the
about
news.
it? Yeah.
What happened?
Let's talk about it. What do you want to talk about, Corey?
I mean, obviously we have to hit the ransomware region official check-in. It's a recurring segment where we talk about how people are dumb and click things. Wait, no, that's me. That's bad security practitioners that blame people for clicking things. What I mean is that people are dumb and they send ransomware campaigns.
There we go. I like that.
So DOJ apparently seized some ransoms paid by, I guess, what is a health center? Or is it like hospitals, I'm assuming? I don't really know what a health center is.
Kansas Medical Center.
Kansas, Colorado. Wait, Kansas and Colorado? Or is there a place called Kansas, Colorado?
Can we just assume that if you name your town after another town in a different state that you're not going to understand security? Like we had everyone was like Dallas County, like, oh my gosh, that whole, brouhaha with coal fire and whatnot. And I was like,
Well, that was
in
McNair
Texas,
County,
no.
I thought.
So
No,
this
that
is
was
on the news.
in Dallas County.
This
Right.
is on the media outlet that wrote this article because I think it's Kansas and Colorado, not a place called Kansas, Colorado, although it is funny to imagine that it exists. So this is Tuesday. There was an international conference on cybersecurity at Fordham University. None of us were invited, obviously. This is talking about Maui. The group encrypted the servers and said the ransom payment would double. They paid. But now they got a refund. They got their money back.
That's why
No,
you
do
always
not
keep
try
those
this at
feet.
home. Do not try this at home. Do not pay unless, I guess, you're really desperate and hope the government will give you your money back. Or you have really good cyber insurance.
Did they give a timeline for this? Because, I'm wondering, did they really get their money back if they paid in crypto?
It says here, from the money laundering account, we seized approximately $500,000 in ransom payments and cryptocurrency used to launder those payments. So they were like partially through the way of laundering the money, and they, kind of.
And now that's worth like 200,000 instead of whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like the government advised them to hold on.
So I mean, this is an interesting thing that we're seeing a lot of, right? So even in the cryptocurrency community, people are saying, "Oh, it's supposed to be distributed. It's supposed to be whatever." And there was a research paper that came out recently that said, "Hey, this stuff isn't as distributed as you think at the top tiers." And law enforcement has figured that out. That at some point, when they start cashing out big numbers, because there's only so many Lambos you can buy with crypto, when they start trying to cash this out, there's still hooks that you can go after that are part of the regular financial system. And that's how a lot of this stuff is happening. They're saying as soon as this wallet tries to exit through whatever tumbler, and they're watching all this stuff, they're then able to use those standard mechanisms. And I'd be shocked if that isn't exactly how this happened.
So yeah, it just says additional blockchain analysis. There's companies that do blockchain analysis. Like Ian said, it's actually really easy to track these payments in certain cases, and the biggest reason is because of the sums. Like you have, a sum of like $100 million. Even if you launder that money, like when you go to withdraw $100 million from anywhere, everyone's going to be like, sorry, what? Like what? You're withdrawing how much? Like it triggers so many red flags. Even just watching, because it's all in a public ledger. We talk about this on the hashtag CoinSec podcast all the time. We even have guests that run these companies that do blockchain sleuthing, basically. And it is easy, or not easy, but it is possible to do like clustering, even if they use intentional obfuscation and mixers and like Tornado Cash and all that stuff. It is possible because it's a public ledger. Unlike, the Cayman Islands, like Panama Papers kind of stuff, it's not public. You can't just be like, how much money do you have in your bank account? Like you can't. So it is a gift and a curse for criminals. But in general, I don't think this is a great example. The people that for years have been saying, oh, blockchain's just for illegal activities. It's actually really worse to use for illegal activities, if we're honest, like because the ledger's public, it's easy to track, and because it's kind of oftentimes the values are tied to their own protocols. So like Tornado Cash doesn't have $100 million in it. If you're trying to launder that much money, you can't do it. So
No. Yeah, I actually share that. The crypto whale and a bunch, there's Twitter accounts that literally post and watch when large crypto payments move and say, hey, these people are moving tons of money, and they're watching. Well, say, hey, someone just offloaded 100 million in Bitcoin. It's not even, you don't even need a warrant. You just follow Twitter.
yeah, and the other crazy thing we've talked about is when these whales get doxxed, or if they're public about their wealth, they are immediate targets for attacks.
Yeah.
There was a Coinbase vulnerability last year, and this was covered on the Darknet Diaries podcast, where it would expose their balance in their account. So they could, attackers filtered through thousands or millions of these Coinbase accounts, and when they find accounts that are whales that have high value, bam, they hit them with, phishing attacks or whatever. So
sure,
stay anonymous if you have a large amount of crypto.
Probably not very technically savvy to know like what's going on beyond. I've got this hardware ledger or this whatever. Bronwyn!
Hi!
Hey!
I made it!
Hello. Coming to us live via Daddy Elon's Sky Internet.
Starlink Enterprise.
Hey, Elon has never yet hit a deadline he has ever set. But you know what? Better late than never.
No,
Anyway.
that's great.
Yeah.
It's very
So
impressive.
on the topic, I mean, this, I don't know, cryptocurrencies and all that. Who needs a warrant when you've got OSINT?
Yep.
Well, you need the warrant to seize the funds once you find where they went.
Okay,
which is
that's
what
fine.
the
But-
government did.
But to figure out who to target, I mean, who needs a warrant? You've got OSINT.
No, I'm dead serious. And folks that are watching and are in the chat, if you've got better legal experience than I do, but my understanding of most financial services rules around any sort of money being transferred, that if you even think that it's related to illegal activities, the bank can basically put a hold on it until, either it's proven otherwise or the law enforcement officers,
Get the warrant.
allow
that
you
they
to release it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Warrant required to seize the funds, yes. Warrant required to freeze the funds, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean,
At that point,
I
it's
don't
just
think it would be funny. I'm sure there's a phishing campaign being developed right now where it's claiming to be the government and saying they've seized the funds. They need to send them to this blockchain address. But yeah, I mean, I guess don't try this at home. Like I said, don't assume you're going to get your money back. It doesn't actually say in the article that the money is being returned to the victims. And if you think about it, this Maui ransomware, it's not like they only hit 2 or 3 people. They seize X amount of money. It could be split amongst the victims evenly or however they decide to do it. There's no guarantee you get this back, even though this is an example of where it is possible. And it's good that the government's going after them.
Well,
Yeah,
and especially if they're following anything similar to what happens in a class action suit, there's so many different factors that come into play in terms of how that money might be distributed. And, one person might wind up getting 5 cents, another person might wind up getting 5 million. And I'm so glad I'm not on the committee that has to make those decisions.
And I mean, I assume you
I
mean
just
the
love that you
lawyers
mentioned-
get the 5 million, and then the committee figures out the 2 cents at the end and how to
Actually, years ago, one of these days offline, let's talk about when my grandmother's hip replacement hardware was recalled. That was a fun adventure.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I just love that you made the comparison to class action lawsuit like that, because all I can think of is now like random commercials that pop up on Hulu or whatnot that are like, were you attacked by the Conti ransomware group between the years of this and this? Like,
Did you click?
no,
Did you click
may
on a
be
free
entitled to
iPad?
Legal compensation.
Oh, God.
Okay, but in the class
I'm
action
writing it
example,
down.
what product would they give for free? Like what? Like how they're like the Red Bull one where they're like, okay, you can either have $5 or a case of Red Bull. Would it be like you can either have $5 or a USB stick? Like,
Oh no, it's got to be like you can have $5 or a year of free VPN service. Yeah.
or free investing advice, crypto investing advice.
1
Yeah.
year of free identity protection.
I mean, I will say, what happens if they make the payment then they do a claim on their cyber insurance, get the payout from cyber insurance, and then they get the money back. Is it like double dipping? Like, do they have to pay the money back to the cyber insurance?
There are rules around that. There's actually a statute of limitations on it. And again, someone who, not a lawyer, but I know the bots are back. Hey, bots. So there's a statute of limitations on things like that if an insurance company pays out and later it turns out that and where these come from often are faked deaths. Like some parent just leaves and they pay the death benefit, and then 5 or 10 years later they come back. As long as you have a legal death certificate and it went through all the process, like they're not going to do anything. They're just going to write it off.
I just wonder how you prove you paid a ransom. Like, do you give them the like blockchain ledger? Like, here's the transaction where we paid $500,000 to Maui ransom. Like, it's just, what is the legal, or what is like the equivalent of a death certificate for ransomware? It's like, our network was dead for 4 minutes. Here's the internet logs.
It's a JIRA ticket.
It's a ticket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ticket. Take down the internet, please. Thank you.
I would imagine it would be because a lot of the places seem to go through third parties that actually understand the crypto better or have their own crypto wallets. I would assume that would be that third party that's actually doing the final transaction would give a receipt to said company for their legal purposes, for their insurance purposes.
You want me to make it even dirtier? Because I can't, and not dirty like that.
That sounds, I was gonna say that already sounds terrible.
No, but just
we already have bots in the
business
chat,
concept
Ian.
dirty. What's that?
We already have bots in the chat. We don't need to make
right.
it dirtier.
That's right. No, I meant more. I don't know, scummy. Maybe that's the right word. So often
sleazy, maybe
sleazy. Yeah, definitely sleazy. So often the legal firms that handle incident response and IR have contracted with these other companies. So the same way that you would do incident response and whatnot, you have a major legal firm actually representing you to help manage lawsuits and things like that. One of the things that they might help you do is, one, set it up so that you never get the advice or anything like that directly from the other people that you're dealing with. You're always working through the lawyers to maintain attorney-client privilege. And then the other thing that they do is, by working through those lawyers, those law firms then have agreements with the companies that you're talking about to say, my client needs you to wire, $100,000 or whatever it is to this organization, but you don't get a bill for the Bitcoin. You get a bill for services rendered from the lawyers. So on paper, having that $100,000 in extra stuff doesn't raise any questions in legal fees. And they've always got plausible deniability around, hey, my lawyer did this, my lawyer advised, attorney-client privilege. I don't know how it got paid, but it got paid. And that's it.
All I know is I told so-and-so to fix it, and they fixed it.
It's the mafia mentality, yeah.
It's so sketchy. The other funny thing would be, I wonder if those third parties like try to scam the ransomware people and just keep the money. Like be like, oh yeah, I sent the payment. And then just don't, all the scamming techniques you could use, like fake PayPal, remit the charges, send it to the wrong address, like all the fun scams you could run, and then just keep the money, be like, oh, sucks to suck. They got the payment, but.
Well, I would assume that some shadier companies might do something like that when they negotiate down, because I've heard of places that a lot of these places will try and negotiate the payment down a bit, and they'll work on it and say, okay, this is how much we could actually afford. This is how much our client could actually afford. Why don't you go with this? How do we know that they're not skimming off the top in those instances?
Oh, God, yeah.
It
sounds terrible, and I would recommend just not getting ransomware.
Oh,
easy choice.
Oh, pro tip, everybody.
So on the next topic of the ransomware corner is apparently there's been some details released about the whole Costa Rican government thing. We did talk about that in the past, and this is the Conti ransomware group. They had a 5-day intrusion. They used, basically bad things happened in Costa Rica. John actually talked about it. Someone should really ban that bot. Ryan, you want to do that?
I already did once.
But I need a new AI dating service for all.
What would be AI dating?
The other day when it came on,
what
I
is
wasn't
AI
sure if
dating?
we were
Is it
dating AIs or if the AI
bots.
was helping us date people?
Is it
So at
your
least they cleared
robot
that up.
dating someone else's robot? Like, does everyone
Right.
code? Do I like code up a
First you have to
robot?
train a machine learning model, and then once you have the model trained, you put it on this site, and it dates other machine learning models.
I kind of
Yeah,
like that. And then
that's-
the one that gets the most matches like wins the tournament. I kind of like this.
Yes.
No, and that's how. And then they have little baby AIs, and that's how Skynet is born.
Oh,
Right.
That makes sense. So anyway, basically, this is kind of famous because the op notes for Conti have been leaked. They used Cobalt Strike. They were basically just like a pen test firm gone wrong, is what it looked like. But the Ministry of Finance was totally locked out. There's basically some fun little details like watching them totally run pen testers. Like they use the NL test command line tool to enumerate domain trusts. And they used invoke share finder, which is something I use almost every day. Like they did use PS exec, which is kind of embarrassing on their part. I mean, you can do better than that. But basically, this is worth a read if you're a defender because it should let you sleep at night a little bit because a lot of the tools they use are things that you probably know how to detect or that you're familiar with. They definitely use a lot of, let's call them common tools. This screenshot of using psexec cmd.exe to run a Cobalt Strike DLL could be straight out of like pentesting101.pdf or like any pen test report.
Wow.
So
basically you're saying this is not a sophisticated attack?
Oh, well, it's extremely sophisticated for Costa Rica, apparently. But
that depends on if Corey's running the commands or not. If Corey's running the commands, it's extremely sophisticated.
Right.
I will say
He wears
if
a top
I
hat when
haven't
doing it.
I haven't used PS exec for like years because it's very heavily IOC'd and I don't know how they're not detecting this. But basically, it's worth a read. It's a fun little sad/interesting, foray into how easy you can breach the Costa Rican government, apparently, if you're just Conti. So that's it for the ransomware corner. Does anyone have any comments on that? I'm sure John knew more about the whole Costa Rica thing on account of going there a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say is this, and kind of trying to, raise the positivity level in a manner of speaking, is this is a really interesting case study in. You got to think, and I got to turn this game down because I'm way too close. You got to think that that Conti attacking the Costa Rican government, right? Would they do this to the United States government? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Would they do it to Russia? Obviously not. Would they do it to other superpowers that have the ability to use kinetic response? And we talked about this before. It'd be very interesting to see if now they've done this with Costa Rica, if then it's not the Bahamas or other smaller nations that they know, hey, we can do this all day long and we don't have to worry about pretty much anything. But we do it in the US or China or Russia or something like that, and you can't even get on a plane. You're getting detained. So
I would say it probably depends. I mean, I will say most of these ransomware organizations have, like, remember we talked about the bug bounty. If you can dox a ransomware operator, you get $1 million bug bounty. So it's supposed to be theoretically impossible to figure out who this is, which means they can attack anyone willy-nilly. But I mean, this Conti group has, I think, been torn down and like they leaked their op notes. They like when the Ukraine-Russia thing hit, people were like leaking. Like it was, they've kind of been torn apart by themselves, classic criminals. But it's interesting to think. I mean, who knows? I guess hopefully the government's better at doxing people than I am. But if you have a backbone wirecap or a Wireshark running at every ISP, it shouldn't be that hard.
Right.
All right. No more ransomware.
No more. It's done. That was the last time.
I just solved it.
Well, I mean, you gave some really good advice. Don't get ransomware.
So wait, this is weird because there's an article in here about the an Apple malware. How can malware run on macOS? I thought it was unhackable.
That's got to be fake news because Apple can't get infected with malware.
It can't, right?
No, guys.
I actually worked for a boss who believed that. I did, and every time it's like, don't you have any antivirus anything on your Mac? No, oh, it's not a problem for Mac users. It's like, yeah, I think you're. Oh well, I don't work there anymore.
No AV, right? No. How many? What do you think the percentage of Mac users that run an AV or EDR on their system is? Like, out of curiosity.
Enterprise or just a user?
But either one.
Well, enterprise, they may not have a choice.
Right.
So
Right.
that kind
Yeah.
of skews the results.
I mean, the thing with it is, in general, consumer antivirus is really not great anyways, but
That is true. That is true.
I mean, I would argue that you're anymore, especially with Windows devices, you're better to just use Defender. That's going to be your best consumer antivirus. So when you're talking about Mac, you're like, oh, what are you going to put on it?
Defender.
Norton?
I will say, subjectively, having tested these products on macOS, they're not amazing. They're like the last time I tested a very well-known EDR vendor's product on macOS, you could just uninstall it. It had no like protection. It had no like you could literally just run a command to uninstall it on the command line. It wouldn't really
Ouch.
put up a fight. So, but obviously it's a moving target. Things have probably changed, but the article is basically CloudMensis, which is a really fun name, but uses public cloud storage for C2, which is kind of fun. And it's basically just like a ransomware type of deal. It's, I guess, what do they call it? Type 2 ransomware, where they exfiltrate and then...
Yeah. Yeah, they do like an extortion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. The thing I find interesting about it is yeah, like Bronwyn said, it absolutely is a scenario where a lot of folks just think, oh, I don't have to worry about this. I've got a Mac. But yeah, I mean, if you've got those folks out there, you know, and talking to the folks in your enterprises or think, yeah, no, it absolutely can run. It's just not to the benefit of the attackers. We started to see an uptick in Apple malware once Apple got popular again. But there were probably years when attackers are like, I can write this malware to run in, you know, on an Apple, you know, and maybe I'll get 2 people, or I can spend it on, you know, Windows, what would be appropriate at the time, like Windows 2000 server, and get millions of people infected.
Well,
It's
and there are some
ROI.
added benefits to Mac. Like, not to discount, like Mac is got some stuff that makes it almost more inherently more inherently secure than Windows, and the fact that you're not just always running as admin. I mean, a lot of times in your consumer Windows devices, you set up an admin account and that's it. So if you get malware on that box, you can easily get your escalation to your like system level control, where you can access all of the accounts on that device. Whereas Mac tends to segment you off a little more and help prevent some of that. I'm not saying it's infallible, and you can still totally set up your high priv account to your Mac, but it's not running in that same instance, in that same context that it does on Windows.
Well, there's also no hilariously easy privilege elevation, like user account control bypasses, like services. There's hundreds. I mean, and to put the record straight on this malware basically hit 4 0 days from 2017 and a couple of vulnerabilities that were published in 2020. So it's pretty old stuff. But they're still trying to use it. Like, they created these accounts to use this tool in like January 2022. So they basically, the article, I think, they went in with old stuff, old vulnerabilities that didn't work anymore unless someone had no patch since 2020. And basically the article, more than anything, is just kind of saying the authors of this program aren't super advanced and aren't super familiar with Mac, but I think the takeaway they were trying to say is that people are writing malware for Mac. You're not like, the joke we made at the beginning where Bronwyn said that one of her leaders used to really believe that Mac couldn't be hacked. That's obviously not true. There's tons of time and effort being put into developing it. So
yeah, and I would say that's specific types of malware. I mean, feel free to disagree. I would love a disagreement on that. But I think as ransomware has gotten more popular, we've seen more Mac-style ransomware work because it's running in the user space. That's where all the files are kept, that they're of any value. I know I've seen a couple things of macOS ransomware at this point that are aimed towards consumers. That I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense. You have a $1,200 computer or more. sitting on your desk, you might have some money to shell out when you get your files encrypted, you know?
Well, part of it also, I think, jumping on board is also who's your target audience? What is it that you're looking to exfiltrate or to lock in? A lot of creatives, sorry about the clock in the background. I mean,
I love
if you
grandfather
look,
clocks, so no apologies.
if you look at who is using Macs most, you're going to see Mac use.
Uh-oh.
Elon,
right as it was
Elon
getting good.
disagrees.
Oh, Elon disagrees.
Elon
does not
has moved the
like
satellite.
grandfather clocks.
So I think I kind of get what you're saying though. Like, there's a lot more like IP type material on those machines in
Did
general.
my connection come back up yet?
Bad point.
It's
Oh
back.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
You're
you're
back.
Shoot, come on.
Oh no, we can hear you.
No, you're back.
Okay. I'm Starlink is far better than what I had before, but it still isn't 100%. But
We tweeted
anyways, what I
directly
was
at Elon when you dropped off, and he was like on it.
So, but basically, if you look at all of the creative houses, so your film, your television, all of those places, and anything having to do with the arts, high arts, they're going to have a higher use of Mac use because partly marketing and partly the interface appeals to people who are on the creative side more than, say, the Windows interface, which has been targeted for years, for decades, strictly at business. So if you're looking that you want to if you want to ransomware the latest Marvel film, then Mac is who you're going to want to target. Because if you can lock up those files or lock up files associated with the production, that could have a nice payday.
Yeah, I
Which
do
is
think
why I'm curious as to why we haven't seen more exfiltration malware on Macintosh to get their hands on these movies faster, earlier, and be able to distribute them and hurt the studios that way.
I can answer that question actually. I mean, so years ago, I did a tour, and it's been years and years, so I can talk about this. But Tiburon Studios, who make like the Madden games, is actually here in Florida, and so they're all EA and whatnot. And they said that yeah, we have people using Macs, we have people using these digital tablets for creating artifacts, but they are connected to our data center, and they actually went and spent a lot of money to custom modify things like Citrix and VMware so that they could use their hardware digitizing tools and have it be in real time. But they did that specifically so the IP didn't live on the computers for all these contractors and consultants globally. The data stayed in the data center and then still has a lot of those same controls. The endpoint is just manipulating it. So I'm not saying that's true of everywhere, but that is definitely true as of 12 years ago for that studio.
I would say my opinion is two things. One, the user land in Windows is not protected at all. If you are running in the user context in Windows, you can access all their files by default. That is not true on Mac. If you run a program on Mac, there's this thing called TCC that they talk about in this article, transparency, consent, and control, that grants individual applications access to specific directories like downloads, desktop. All those have to be individually granted permissions to a specific program. So that's part of the reason. And I think the more, there are specific controls that are in Mac that are default enabled that protect like just an app from running and accessing all your files, unlike on Windows. But more so, I think it's just the path of least resistance for attackers. Like they're used to Windows, number one. They know it's a weaker security context, number two. And number three, they aren't going to spend all the time researching vulnerabilities and developing them for Mac when it's only a smaller chunk of the user population. Yeah. That's my opinion. Is it really, it's more of a pain, even if it is like once you get in, Mac is weak. Like once you're actually like trusted in the system, or if you have vulnerabilities, like you don't have like the EDR as an example, like there's not built out, like Wade said in the comments, blue teams are not great at defending Macs because we aren't used to them. We aren't used to seeing, like, can you run, what are the event logs? Does it even have event viewers? Does it have, like, a lot of our tools are specific to Windows environments. But I think that those are like my theories. And I would say, like, Ian, in that case where a client or a company is doing that, I think they're potentially actually introducing weaknesses, right? Because then that stuff's probably just on a file share. So it's like, now it's
I suppose that just depends,
ransomwareable.
but yeah, I hear you.
Well,
But you could
and
also
that's
say
a really
Go ahead, Ron.
that's a really good point, Corey, because what do we know about the ransomware people and malicious actors in general? They're predators. They're going to go after soft targets. As soon as unless they have an overriding interest in a specific target, either because of what they're going for or whatever ideological, they're going to go for the softest target they can find. And when you get under the covers, I mean, the differences between how macOS structures things and how Windows structures things, there are subtleties that can make the development end of the malware just a pain. It's a pain in the ass. Am I allowed to say that on this? Anyway,
Yes.
Okay, so it's a pain in the ass, and I know because I came from the development world, and trying to make things that were stable cross-platform is genuinely obnoxious, just even for simple applications. So for something where you're actually going in, bypassing, escalating, getting into encrypting things and locking it away, yeah, that can be a royal pain. Why on earth would I, as an attacker, want to spend the additional time, effort, skull sweat, whatever, in creating something that I can do cross-platform when I've already got rich targets that don't use AV, that don't patch updates, yada, 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 the whole slew of things that we keep saying over and over again. Why would they go after a harder target when there's low-hanging fruit and easy pickings everywhere they turn?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I do think that, like, if someone were to predict that, like you did with the Marvel movies or other things, I think in specific targeted scenarios, there will be Mac shops that have no Windows and they will have to operate in those environments. And I do think over time we'll see an increase, I would imagine. I would put money that in the next few years there'll be some development, creative, social media type of shop that has only Macs and ends up in a really bad scenario because they don't have, they probably, will they even have logs of what the attacker's doing? I don't know. So it's kind of like
for blue teamers out there, we need to really be looking into this though, like in how we defend these machines in the future. I'm not going to go into a ton of details of why, but I do think we're going to start seeing shifts off of Windows as we progress in the next, 15, 20 years. But
or at the very least, go ahead.
It also seems that Apple is trying to meld more of iOS into macOS.
Yeah.
So how much of that is going to wind up increasing their footprint and make it much more enticing for the malicious people out there?
Well, so things are going mobile. That's a really good point. Like, a lot of executives now are like, just hand me an iPad. I don't want to deal with updates and whatever. But also, I think a lot of the controls that are in Mac will probably be added to Windows. So these developers will have to look into these things anyway. And then once they have stuff that does it, now it can be cross-platform easier. So I definitely, I agree. The mobile space that is expanding and the desktop space is probably retracting, if we're looking at a global scale of internet traffic. You probably aren't seeing a ton of people that are at the executive level or above, or even a lot of people just do web browsing, email, stuff like that, and they don't need an actual desktop. So whether it's iOS or iPads or whatever.
I think that's a great segue. And to end on a thought, Brian Godfrey in the chat there was a while back, but I saw it. Only worms attack apples, which is such a fantastic. It's you got the worm virus thing, you got the whole thing, Brian.
It makes sense.
Nice. I see a new sticker at a future conference.
Yes. but to that end of the merging, we've got a story in there about Google Play hides app permissions in favor of developer written descriptions. Thankfully, no one has ever lied on the internet.
That's insane.
Except today there was a new one update that Google has now rolled that back due to everybody complaining about it.
Yeah, That's gotta be the case. This is seriously like being like, all right, no one used this badly. Like, like.
Believe me,
Yeah.
there is no feature that developers have ever not used badly.
Right.
Man.
Yeah.
Legitimate
basically-
ones, not even like one's trying to
You
be
can
like
send
malicious.
emails to Bronwyn at
So for anyone that has no idea what we're talking about, when you install an application, it asks for specific permissions like, can I access the webcam? Can I access the microphone? What about your files? Usually that's built into the system what it displays. This app, the calculator app requested access to your camera. That seems kind of weird. Now Google added and has retroactively disabled the feature where I can add a custom section that just discusses my app's privacy policy. So if I'm the calculator app requesting your camera permissions, I can just be like, I need this for reasons. And you can be like, well, I don't have anything to argue with that. So it reduces the transparency for what users can see. So classic, though. We know Android has a weaker security posture app-wise. Malware gets through there all the time. I guess it would kind of fit with the narrative of just anything goes.
It's funny. In looking at this article, they don't make any reference to it, but I can almost picture the conversation in the conference rooms at Google, right, where they're going through and saying, "Hey, we've got to do something about GDPR. GDPR says that you have to have these permissions written and these privacy settings written in a way that the layman can do it. Oh, well, we can't do that for millions and millions of apps. How could we do it?" And then meeting. Later, someone goes, "We've developed this thing that the developers can write up a short blurb about the things they make, and that would give us the layman's terms around that. And since we're doing that, why don't we just get rid of the other thing to make it easy?" I would bet there's no amount of money I wouldn't bet that that's exactly how that happened.
That's
I
probably
think
a
it's that,
solid
and they
guess.
figured nobody was actually looking at the app permissions anyways, and everybody's going, "Wait, we do look at that."
Well, I was gonna say, like, it almost sounds to me almost more like someone was like, okay, so how do we explain this in layman's terms to the layman? And they're like, okay, cool. So one guy was probably in the boardroom and he was like, okay, I got an idea. Let's call the layman in and ask him what would be useful. And they're like, get out. Like, instead, go get the developers and bring them in here, and we'll ask them what they think would be useful.
I
That
feel like
never happens.
yes.
That never happens. Never, ever happens. And when it does, I guarantee everybody on the C-suite is sorry afterwards.
So the other thing cynically that I can think of is that companies that harvest data, like Google, want things to be less transparent so they can harvest more data. Google. So, having, the Gmail app can access your microphone. Why? Is there any reason for that? Is
Probably something like voice to text.
His voice.
Maybe.
Well, but I mean, I just made that up. I don't even know if that's a specific. I mean, it probably can,
Well,
but
that's the reason they give. Like, it's
Right.
probably for voice to text.
But they want to
possibly.
soften it. They want to soften the blow for the user, so it doesn't just say Google, right, would request access to, and then it's just every permission on your phone. They can be like, here's our privacy policy. It's 800 pages. No one ever read it except for this one lawyer. Like, it's a way for them to harvest more data, which is their entire business model, right? Shocker. Google, the company that controls the code base, that hires, that spends billions of dollars harvesting people's data, wants to harvest more data more easily in their operating system. That's my cynical take, but Ian's is pretty good too.
I've been in enough multi-billion-dollar corporate meetings where I can reverse engineer how death by committee of a feature that had every good intention rolls out as an absolute dumpster fire.
It's more customization for the developers. That's probably what the programmers thought. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So Wade wanted us to talk about gas pumps. This isn't cybersecurity news. This is real news.
Man,
Do we
people
need to
are-
have, like, a different video that introduces the real news then?
Gas is so expensive. Yeah, we probably should. This is welcome to Black Hills Infosec talking about other news. Apparently people are hacking the pumps. Who would have thought? $6 a gallon, $5 a gallon, whatever the average price of gas in the U.S. is over or around $5 a gallon, which is still cheaper than it is anywhere across the pond. And basically, police have arrested at least 22 people for either digitally manipulating computers that manage gas pumps or installing homemade devices to discount their fuel. Most common tactics aren't technologically sophisticated. They take advantage of the fact that gas pump infrastructure is heavily standardized. Basically, it doesn't go into detail about how the attacks work that I can see. There's apparently a company that makes startup security products for gas stations. Okay.
So
Basically, they have a remote control option to allow station owners and fuel inspectors to easily access them. They're not regulated. They're on sale on eBay.
Default passwords.
So I'm guessing this is like a physical device you can buy that connects to the gas pump locally, and like you could apparently just buy them on eBay. Like,
Oh, and like nothing nefarious has ever been bought or sold on eBay.
never.
So,
eBay's
yeah,
only used by criminals. We should make it illegal.
well, so and there's a thing that says, of course, the gas dispenser remotes require codes, but guess what? Gas station owners don't change the codes, like Mike said, default. And yeah, apparently a suspect was arrested in March using a remote control to access a pump and then sold the gas. That's pretty funny.
Well, I mean, I can understand the frustration. I just, while I was running errands, which is why I was late, one of the things
this small device.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, it's all right.
It sounded very official for a second.
No, I think it was. I think it was the actual news.
The pay
Uh-oh.
I'm miles a day anymore, thank the maker, to from work. It was still painful going in and topping off my tank. And then, of course, I drive back into town, and when I see the prices on the main drag near my house, yeah, it's just insane, the discrepancies in the prices. So people are going to try and figure a workaround. Doesn't mean they do it smart, but they're going to try. Now, my question, though, these people that were stopped by the police, were they putting gas in plastic bags?
Yeah, I mean, I will say on this, like, it's funny. I think this is kind of, let's call it hyperbolized or overinflated classic news. They're like, oh, recent months, some people have tried to hack the pump. It says police have arrested 22 people across the country. So 22 out of 300 million. Like it's not like that many people are doing it.
I don't think that qualifies as statistically significant.
I don't think it does either. But according to the news, it's a huge deal. And by the way, the gas prices are high. We haven't told you about that 50 times in the,
Right.
So I mean, I guess from a cybersecurity perspective, if you could just buy a flipper or whatever, an RFID signaling device that can talk to these gas pumps, you could access this remote feature, and the remote feature allows you to just dispense as much gas as you want. Which I guess you can talk about, the financial implications or but also just, it does say in the article, for whatever reason, whether apathy or for lack of knowledge, no one's changing the default password.
The scary thing is this: I did a quick Google search, and the hit on there's just a RF remote control for changing the gas prices that's going for $89 on eBay.
That's like less than a tank of gas for most people. So
That's
the financial.
I've got a flipper one
decision.
right here.
Yeah.
I've got a flipper one right here. This was substantially more than $89.
Well, I also assume that this is one of those things that as it happens more and more, a lot of these it's like blue boxes. It's like this, you can build your own. Once you start buying them, a lot of them are probably scams, or like wish.com gas pump changer thing on Amazon for like $10 is going to be a scam. And then, yeah, it's just going to be people running around at gas stations pointing things at things and trying to get, things to happen. But
Well, the interesting thing here is Ryan, I threw a YouTube link in the chat. That's what the folks heard for a second. I forgot my audio was feeding through. But if you would put that into the larger chat, this is from Channel 6 News Orlando. As a matter of fact, Ryan, since you've got it up there, can we jump to let's see here, jump to about, I don't know, a minute. I'm looking through here to see where the Secret Service agent actually has one of the. There we go. Jump to a minute 48.
Are they using the device to delete text messages? Sorry, hot take.
Minute 40. Yeah, and just let it play for a second once it's there.
Build that
There's the
device, about $40.
They
This
pop
is
it
the
off
pulser,
the internal
right?
fuel pump.
Intel
Yeah.
suggests organized gangs have designed the handmade mechanism that connects with the pulsar. Call it a perfect fit for the perfect crime.
It tells me that whoever designed this knows exactly how the gas pump operates and how this device operates inside the gas pump.
This
Oh my
video
gosh,
shows
are you
a
telling
thief
me that
accessing
people
a
can
gas
work at
pump
gas
in
stations?
seconds. He was installing a skimmer targeting debit and credit cards.
So,
This
let's go ahead and-
is the next generation.
Yeah, it's a manipulator.
Whoa, that's some sick
So-
graphics.
That's one of my local news stations here. But the reason I wanted to pull that video up is because you can see it looks like a maker project. Like it's not anything crazy.
So wait, does that just stick? Does it have to go on the inside of the thing, or is it
I don't
on
think
the
so.
outside?
Yeah, I think I gotta go take a look at actually what it does. But as soon as we pulled up this article, I started thinking, I bet I know what's happening here. So when you put the gas in the tank and you get that back pressure that says, hey, you've put, the tank is full, right? And in the same way that the handle, if you squeeze it, more comes out. If you squeeze it less comes out. That back pressure pulse is what I think that changes, that lies to the system and tells it, hey, the flow rate is different. You didn't dispense 10 gallons, you dispensed 5 gallons or whatever it is. That's how I'm betting that works.
So I think it has to go. I think it has to go like inside the pump. I
was gonna say,
believe.
like, I had a little bit of a different take. I'm not disagreeing entirely. I just when I saw it, I was thinking it goes on the reel that counts basically, because it should be a volumetric pump. Wouldn't it? Or
Yes.
Like volumetric sensor?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. It basically lies to like the rudimentary electronics and says.
Oh, that does make sense actually.
It basically lies to electronics and says, "Oh yeah, we've only pumped a gallon, but it's actually 100 gallons."
I'm gonna have
Right.
to look that up because one of the
So-
notes that they made and that we talked about was that, these gas station pumps. And here's the thing: like I was at
The physical security of the gas station
security
pumps.
terrible, because those pumps are ridiculously expensive and very well regulated. And it's one of the reasons that the PCI Council said that you don't have to have chip and pin long after other retail establishments, because getting those new chip and pin readers into those devices. And I was up at MasterCard headquarters a few years ago, and a major gas station company that you would be familiar with, I was chatting with the folks that do Infosec there, and they're like, yeah, you have no idea how bad these systems are. They literally, to connect back to the store, is like a 2-wire serial interface. So there just isn't the bandwidth to push stuff like Apple Watch. We actually have to dig a trench, which is its own EPA thing, to run new wires through into the store to connect. So like half the time they put the satellite dish like on top of the gas pumping thing so that they don't have to trench the parking lot.
Well, so there's those tamper evidence stickers though, and everyone checks those, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone makes sure that their gas pump hasn't been tampered with before using it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody made a device that was real cool, but this is for skimmers, where it would detect. You slide it in. Oh, who made that? You could buy it for like $50, and you swipe it first. Which to anyone looking, they're going to think that person, they're putting a thing in. But what you're really doing is you're checking to see if there's a deep insert skimmer in there, and it will detect a second reader head. So as you pull it out, it's like, no, there was 2 reads here. There's something in there that's.
I think at this point though, a credit card is worth about a gallon of gas max. So they're going for the gas instead of the credit cards.
Sure.
Unless it's a fleet card. Unless it's a fleet card. Matter of fact, I found an article because I was looking for statistics on skimmers and came across this. And one of the things it says flat out, fleet cards are gold to the people who are skimming for credit cards at gas stations. Scroll down. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's... And matter of fact, the one and only time I've ever had to deal with identity theft, I used an ATM card at a gas station. I was in a bad part of town, and that was a pain.
Do you know what's funny?
Those weren't very good thieves. They should have gone to the good part of town where people
Exactly.
have more credit limits.
That's what you see more. to be honest, like I almost never worry about getting, and I joked about this in the last neighborhood I lived in. It was a very working class neighborhood, just plumbers and police officers and just very working class folks. And I never worried about leaving my door unlocked. I never worried about anything. My sister-in-law at the time lived in a much nicer, more affluent area, and they had their, sliding glass door windows smashed and a bunch of stuff stolen because they were both at work. And everyone in the neighborhood was at work because they were dual income to, for this whole thing. And it's the same thing with skimmers. It's like, yeah, I can go to the gas station in the, quote, bad part of town, but how many of those cards are going to be like, have $5, $6 just barely getting by? You're not getting any of the American Express corporate cards. You're not getting that stuff. So,
No,
yeah.
but it's also a numbers game, because you got to remember the gas stations that are in the less affluent areas or in more highly industrial areas are also less likely to be well maintained and observed.
That's fair.
And in an industrial area in particular, you're going to have more fleet vehicles.
Sure.
So
yeah, I was thinking bad part of town, not necessarily like industrial areas when you said that. But
well,
yeah, no,
but the
right.
opportunity in terms of the maintenance of the opportunity to install skimmers is higher in a bad part of town. And again, this is numbers. It's just like spam.
Mm-hmm.
The more spam you send out, the more return you get. The more opportunities you have, you might be dealing with people who only have $5 or $10 in their account, and then you find somebody who just got paid and they've got $800 or whatever. You get enough of those, and you're off to.
Well, and when you only have $10 in your account, you wind up swiping your card through a lot more gas station pumps.
That's a fair point too. All good points. Hey, we've only got about 3 minutes left, and if I could make a suggestion. One, there are two stories that maybe we don't need to get into, but just for the sake of public service announcement, if you've got Atlassian Confluence and it's out there on the interwebs for all your remote developers, you might want to go patch. And the same with Cisco. Cisco's got some pretty major bugs in their Nexus data center devices. So if you're in the enterprise space and you've got one of those giant chassis, time to schedule that change window. So please, if you're listening and you're looking for the news, like, oh, this was great crypto talk, go patch your stuff too. And then the last bit here, can we talk about the skateboarding dog? The where is it? Not the Neopets thing. New air gap attack uses SATA cables as antenna. I love the skateboarding dog hacker, type stuff. Nobody
was there really a skateboarding dog, or was that a joke?
No, that's just what they, in news things. It's.
I mean, I am kind of. I don't. I don't want to. Is Bud Patches out of the office this week? Has he got some?
Bud is out of the office. He's on vacation.
Oh, where does he go on vacation?
Bud. Oh,
yeah.
where absolutely no internet.
Oh, interesting.
Activity. Yeah. We don't know. He just leaves. Nobody was interested in the story like I was. No.
Well, wait.
Sorry, I was distracted by.
Oh, the air gap
vacuuming noises.
Basically, so this story is using SATA cables, and they were able to determine that you could trick the cable, or you could manipulate the frequency and manipulate what was going across it to go in the 6 gigahertz frequency band, and basically turn the SATA cable into an antenna for exfiltration in air-gapped environments.
Huh. Now I wonder, is this one of those things that only works in a lab? Like, because I feel like a SATA cable is usually inside of a metal enclosure. It's kind of. I would love to see this demonstrated in the real world, like at a village.
Yeah, I mean, they've got video here of them doing it, but I agree.
The case is off the computer, though. Or maybe that's just the picture.
No, I think that's just the picture there, one of them. The other one's got them on a laptop or something to that effect. So,
wait, laptops have SATA cables in them?
Well, they've got SATA.
Sometimes. Usually the unshielded, like, flat ribbon style.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unshielded is good.
Right.
Well, for this, yeah.
Oh, I see. The air-gapped PC is where they're attacking. They're attacking from the laptop to the PC. Right. Okay. Right. Yeah, I'd be very curious to see. I mean, what the physical distance is.
Label it for us.
Yeah, the physical distance, and The other question is people will go ahead and talk about this stuff, and while it's possible, the question is how viable is it actually in
it's like
reality?
Van Eck freaking and stuff like that. It's like you have to. Okay, so if
It's
you
like
can get
the
your
windows
target
vibrating in a house or something,
right,
just to go ahead and read the hard drive.
Yeah, if you can get your target to bring their desktop computer to a hotel and then set up the desktop computer on the hotel desk, which is right next to the wall, which is right near where your hotel room is, you might be able to do it. But then you got to ask yourself the question, why is someone bringing an air-gapped computer into a hotel?
Well, so the reason I like these stories is it kind of tells what's possible, you know, and the phrase I was trying to think of was stunt hacking.
Right.
Stunt.
Oh, it's totally stunt
Stunt
hacking.
hacking.
Yes.
Stunt
Yeah,
hacking.
total.
Air gaps, anything that erodes the reputation of air gaps is a step in the right direction, though.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So it's
But
a good stunt.
it'd be interesting to see though, because even when you read the article, it says one. I'm assuming they mean 1 meter away. Considering where the research came from, it looks like out of Israel, where a lot of that really cool kind of stunt hacky stuff comes from.
Right.
And then I often wonder when that stunt hack stuff comes out, I'm like, oh, so like 5 years from now, we're going to find out this was pivotal in the Stuxnet 2 electric
Right.
boogaloo or something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know air-gapped computers are. There's a lot of really crappy computers that are like, well, it's air-gapped, so it should be fine, right?
Yeah. No.
To be fair,
love
I have seen a few air-gapped computers that are sitting right next to non-air-gapped computers. So
Fair.
exactly
I mean, it
what I was-
doesn't specify how much air. It's just
Right.
some air.
Well,
I mean,
just
I'm just saying, like I've seen it before, where it's like air-gapped computers over here, and then like you check your email on the computer sitting right here.
Yep.
Like the towers are touching.
that's real common in DoD and DoD contractor environments.
So then
Very-
the only tricky part is getting a 6 gigahertz radio into the environment.
Right. Yeah.
Because
Well,
the
that's when
receiver-
you have a receiver.
Well, I don't think most wireless cards can receive at that high of a frequency. I know 5 gigahertz, but it'd be cool if like any Wi-Fi card could receive the signals. Then you just breach a computer that's near, and then you Well, I guess you have to. Also,
Well, for the most part, if you can transmit, you with like using the same tools, you can receive. Maybe with like really diminished efficiency, but usually anything that can transmit can receive.
well, also, wouldn't you have to compromise the computer first to be able to have it start using its SATA cable as a like? It's
don't
kind of
think
chicken
so.
and egg.
Which brings us back to stunt hacking.
Well, what would so walk us through what would be like the real like APT level usage of this? Because how can you just read from the SATA? Is that the idea?
One of its chief uses, I'm reading through here, unlike traditional, in kind of reading through this article, though, immediately like the attack surface kind of threat vector I was thinking of was once this gets past, stunt hacking, someone goes, oh, just like Rowhammer, where it's like, oh, this is mathematically and theoretically possible. Now, how do we operationalize it and put it on a Bluetooth and da-da-da? And that's where this stuff starts. But imagine a scenario where you've got a Raspberry Pi-like device with a what is an Ubertooth 1 or something like that. Then you've got a box and you go into some building after hours. Doesn't have to be DoD space, but you say, hey, we can't get in from the outside, but now this little box has got a 5G cellular connection. We've got cellular, great. We set it next to this other computer. It's not hooked into anything, and suddenly it's reading off of there. Any data that's being transmitted. I can see that being like really valuable in like bank scenarios and other financial services scenarios where it might be very easy to get into a physical office, but very difficult to get onto the network.
So I do think that the air-gapped box has to be running the whatever software to use this as a
Oh, does it?
antenna.
Yeah. Well,
I
that
believe.
makes it.
So it's harder. You have to compromise the machine. You basically have to be an insider.
Yeah, the guy who developed this also developed the LCD brightness one, the power supply unit air gap,
He's really trying to buff up
the
his resume.
AirFi, the
So-
Lantenna. I mean, it says right there since 2020 he's done 4 of them.
Yeah.
So
it
basically,
sounds
he
like a
is-
stunt hacker.
He's the king of edge cases.
Pretty much.
He's the king of air gap bypass. If you need one, call him, but you probably don't.
I've always wondered what it means when someone says they're an edgelord, and now I know. He is,
Yeah, that's definitely what it means. I mean, it's pretty funny.
Absolutely.
Like, if you're this guy and you get a call from someone, hey, I need you to bypass an air gap. Okay, step one, you have to run my program on the compromised system. What? Like, that ruins the whole point of it, doesn't it? If you could already compromise the system, it's just for exfil, basically.
Well, just wait a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and there'll be a new gizmo on Hack 5.
Well, but then you got to ask yourself the question, how do I get my payload onto the computer in the first place to run it? Like, do I use a USB? And in that case, why don't I just copy all the files on a USB? Like, I don't know. It's very chicken and egg.
The latest from Hack 5, the SATA snail. The SATA snail is a covert operations system.
Yeah, that's coming out next week.
Oh, that is beautiful, Ian. They need to hire you.
I can't do Darren's voice well enough, but for the promo videos. The SATA snail is an advanced device for your covert operations. Plug it in now in the office.
It comes with a tactical cargo pants.
Right. But it also has to be can be configured using the extensible Ducky script.
On that note, I think it's time to end.
I hope we don't wind up having liability issues if somebody actually does that.
Oh, I was gonna tell Dan. I was gonna tweet at Darren and say like, hey, Darren, here you go.
They'd probably say we already have the whatever tool that already does it, bro.
Right. Yeah.
We already have this. You don't know about the SATA turtle? We already have that.
You just take the LAN turtle adapter to SATA, and then you're good to go.
I mean, honestly, I don't know what the wireless restrictions are, but you could probably do it with a Pineapple. If it can read 6 gigahertz, it's good to go.
I don't think I literally just got it in the mail the other day, the 5 gigahertz add-on module.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it has to be another module then.
It would have to be. All right. Well, the bots are back. Well, we're leaving bots, so yeah.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. No news will happen next week. There will be no news between this week and next week. So we'll do the same show again next week.
Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
Cool.